Hi everyone, my name is Fred Bastien and I'm joined by CSA astronaut Jeremy Hansen. We're live from the Canadian Space Agency headquarters in Longueuil, Québec for a Q&A. It's very exciting. Je commence en me rappelant que nous réunissons aujourd'hui sur un territoire traditionnel non cédé des Kanien'kehá:ka, également connu sous le nom de la nation Mohawk. Jeremy, in just a few months, you'll become the first Canadian to take part in the lunar mission. The Artemis II mission will bring 4 astronauts around the moon in a nearly 10-day mission. Tout au long de la mission, ils devront veiller au bon fonctionnement du vaisseau Orion, qu'on voit juste ici, Orion, et qui sera utilisé dans les futures missions Artemis. During their lunar flyby, they will even see parts of the moon that have never been seen before by human eyes. So these eyes are going to see amazing stuff. Jeremy, any words for the people joining us online?
It's a pretty exciting time for me and the entire crew right now as we enter these final days of preparations. You never know when the launch will actually be. Things can happen, it can shift, but we are going to be ready as early as February in case everything else falls into place. And so it's this weird sense of in some moments I'm super excited and I'm thinking, wow, this is coming. I'm starting to feel that. And then the next moment I'm like, wow, I got to really get to work. Time is running out and we still have work to do. But it's an extraordinary opportunity. And for one of the things I love to reflect on about the mission is what it represents and says about Canada. We're the second country in the world to send a human into deep space. And this is not a gift. It's something we earned. Over decades, we've worked to create technologies and innovate. And now we are an important partner on the world stage with respect to space. And we earned our spot here. And that's the reason a Canadian will fly next year around the moon. And if we can do that right now, imagine what we can do next.
Yeah, that's very inspiring. You were also telling me that you spend a lot of time right now practicing in the simulations and stuff. You must be quite busy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, our schedules are completely full every day. We have the great schedulers who put it all together and try to get all of the necessary training in and testing done that is required. But then, on our own time, I find myself in the evenings and weekends, working more and more as we get closer to launch and drilling things, trying things out that we maybe haven't had the chance to try in the big sims that involve hundreds of people. And so, yeah, it's starting to feel very real. I think that's a good indication that we're getting close to launch, that I'm spending so much of my off time in the simulator.
That's amazing. Now it's time for you to ask questions to Jeremy. So please leave them in the chat. Here are a few questions that we received already from our followers on Instagram to get started. Donc, merci à tous et toutes d'être avec nous.
Thank you to everyone for your presence. Ask your questions.
Can you say you attribute part of your success to a childhood dream?
In my case, definitely. And a lot of colleagues that, it wasn't a childhood dream for them, but for me, it certainly was. I simply saw an image of humans standing on the moon as a child, and it changed my perspective. And I started looking at the moon differently. I knew there were boot prints up there. I wanted to go there. I changed my treehouse into a spaceship with dials and controls, and I was exploring space in my imagination, and so it pushed me. And I told other people about it. That's what's kind of neat is I was telling teachers, parents, mentors, I was interested in space, and they were guiding me to do things that would help me along that path. And they kind of used that to motivate me, which I think is really neat when I look back upon it. That led me to, I was interested in aviation too, led me to Air Cadets, prepared me for the military. So all these things along the way, my military experiences have gotten me to this point where I'm ready to take on this challenge.
So it was a long time coming, you're saying. It was, and a big community rallied around you to do it. Were there any moments of doubts along the journey?
Yeah, never by people who were supportive of me. I was always supported. People were always saying, yes, this is possible. You should dream big. These things can happen and you should go for it. So no one was ever discouraging me except myself. Mm. And that's a very human trait that we have. And so for everyone that's out there, I know it to be true of every single human. We all have these self-doubts. And we have to kind of set them aside and ask for help when we need it. And that's how you achieve the things that you're meant to achieve.
That's beautiful and true and inspiring. Okay, so what's the last meal you will eat before leaving Earth?
Well, we'll be in the quarantine facility at the Kennedy Space Center. The day of launch is very well choreographed, down to the minute, where we're moving and how much time we have to eat, etc. We have, during that quarantine period, we have these great cooks who provide for us, and they'll basically make anything you want. I haven't really decided yet, but I know it's going to be a long work day. So from the time we wake up to the time we are done and have even the opportunity to think about getting a nap is something like 18 hours of straight on going hard. And then we get a little nap that day, about 4-hour period if we're lucky, and then we have to get up and do a critical burn, and then we get another nap, and then we have to do the translunar injection. So that first 36 hours is actually pretty stressful, so I better eat a good breakfast, I'm thinking.
Yeah, you'll need some good protein in there, right? Nice. Qu'est-ce que tu espères le plus retenir de ta...
So what do you hope to retain from your mission? What's the main thing you would like to retain? We're going to have extraordinary things, that's sure. We will see the moon, we will see the Earth from the moon. It's something amazing. And I think that's what it's important. It's important for humanity to take a break during the mission and look at the image and realize that we can do better here, that we can do extraordinary things when we collaborate, and it is possible to have international collaboration. It's possible to create together instead of destroying things. I hope that that will be the case. I hope it was something that tells the world we can do things better. Well, yes, you will experience that in a team with an impressive crew. How do you think the environment will be in space? I think it'll be fun. There is pressure, of course, but I have a lot of trust in the team. I love when we face challenges together, because we are four, we are capable of doing what we're supposed to do, and it's really fun to work together. We will have moments with a lot of pressure, that's certain, but it will be fun.
Watching online, Josie asks, my boys are so excited about your launch. Is there a specific day for your launch announced yet?
No, not really. We wish we could predict the future, Jose, but the reality is, space is challenging. It's hard. We have to go when everything is saying it's ready to go. It's a very complicated vehicle. Now, there are some things we know. We know in early February, and then again a month later in March, and then a month later in April are these windows that we can hit. That work out from a trajectory point of view. But until we see how the processing of the vehicle really progresses over the next month and a half, we won't really know for sure which one we're going to target. But when we go into quarantine, that's 2 weeks notice, and we'll know a precise launch date by then.
So people will know about 2 weeks notice too, right?
Yeah, for sure, as a minimum. I don't know when we'll make those decisions, but when they do, we'll share them when there's more clarity.
And you've mentioned quarantine before. What's the use of that quarantine before leaving?
Yeah, quarantine simply we don't want to be sick in space.
Right.
And so it's kind of like COVID being in lockdown. We just isolate ourselves from society for those 2 weeks to make sure we're not picking up any germs. That gives us enough time if we already had something. We work it out of our systems and make sure we launch healthy and we don't have to overcome a head cold in space, which would just be miserable.
Yeah, you have enough challenges already.
Yeah.
Another question here says Marvin is at school right now, but if he could ask a question, he would like to know, how cold is the south pole of the moon?
Oh gosh, it depends where you go. I don't really know the exact temperatures, but what we do know is a couple of things. One, we sort of say if you're in sunlight in space, it's about 250 degrees positive, and if you're in shadow in space, or you're behind the Earth, for example, you'll go down to about 250 degrees Celsius.
Wow.
These are just very rough numbers. However, the south pole of the moon is very special in that there are craters there that have never seen sunlight.
Wow.
Since the formation of the moon, because they're in these permanently shadowed, or since the craters were formed anyway, there's permanently shadowed craters on the bottom of the moon. And we think there's frozen water ice in there. And that's a major objective of the Artemis missions, is to go figure this out, because that's a neat resource in space. If you can find water, now you've got water to drink, you can break it down into oxygen to breathe, and then oxygen and hydrogen for fuel. So it's a really important resource. In those craters, you're much close to absolute, like, zero, and like Kelvin, like, you know, the absolute cold as it can be, where like molecules stop vibrating. So you get pretty close to those temperatures.
Yeah, crazy to have that in our neighborhood, in our
like
solar system neighborhood.
The ultimate freezer.
Yeah, exactly. Nicolas, 6 ans, demande, est-ce que l'Artemis...
Nicolas, 6 years old, is wondering if the Artemis is on the hidden side of the moon, and if possible, and is it possible to communicate with Earth through the satellites? Well, not for us. We have got satellites around the moon, but they're not for communication. When we are on the other side of the moon, we will see some species that have never been seen before, just like you said. But for about 45 minutes, we'll not have the capacity to communicate with the Earth. And it's simply because the moon is right in sight. So for 45 minutes, you'll be alone. I imagine you're ready for this moment, and you have a moment without any contact with the planet. Yes, we talk about that. The reality for us is we will be very occupied during that period. Between 3 and 4 hours, it's the best time to observe the moon, and the 45 minutes are within that time frame. So we will equip the windows with cameras. We've got targets. We'll make observations. We'll take pictures from various angles. While we are flying over the moon and around the moon, we will also capture the Earthrise and the moment when the Earth is hidden by the moon, and at that time we'll lose communication. We'll be very busy. We don't think about that. We know that on the internet, the sunrise pictures are very popular. I imagine that the Earthrise pictures would be very popular on Instagram as well. That will be something.
DCI, it's from Ingersoll, Ontario, which is your native hometown.
C'est Monaco.
Very, very simple question. Are you nervous?
I'm not nervous right now, but I certainly get nervous, and I will be nervous. There'll be things that make me nervous, things that make me scared leading up to the launch. It's a very complex vehicle. I can't imagine walking onto the launch pad and the thing is full of fuel and it's moaning and creaking and its vapes are coming off of it, and that there's got to be some fear that's involved in that. But there'll also be excitement. And my experience with fear, through all of the training I've had and flying fighter jets, is that you just learn to compartmentalize it. So it's there, you sense it, it kind of gives you a heightened sense of alertness. You can use it to your advantage, but you just don't let it own you. And so, yeah, I will get scared. I think the other time it'd just be hard to say goodbye to the family, especially the day before launch. You'll all see on TV, if you're watching, the very public goodbye with our families when we leave the quarantine facility on the day of launch, all suited up and head out to the pad. Our families will be there, which would be really cool. But the real heartfelt goodbye will be the day before, and I think that'll be tough.
Wow. Yeah, and it's very interesting what you said about using fear, as an advantage. Mm-hmm. It's how can kids learn to do that early on in life?
Yeah, it's a great question, because we all struggle with emotions, right? Emotions are a very real thing, and you need to sense your emotions. You need to process them. It's not that you're trying to ignore them. They're real things, and they need to be. You need to talk about them. But the way to learn this skill set is, to make a decision. Am I dealing with this emotion in the present moment, or am I going to deal with it later? Because you have to deal with it sometime. But you can, in that moment where you have to take care of something urgently, you can set it aside and sort of just ignore it for a bit and then take care of the issues that are causing that emotion. Or you can remove yourself, if you can, from the situation and go process emotion with people that you trust, and just be open and honest with people about how you feel. The key is in both of those is that we don't react in the moments of emotion. This is where we get ourselves into trouble. And you know this with your friends or your family. When you're angry or you have an emotion and you are trying to address the problem with all of that emotion, it's just never going to work out very well in your favor. So remove yourself from the situation, give yourself some time to cool down, and then attack the problem.
There's lots of wisdom in there. Maintenant, Jean-Christophe qui dit...
Jean-Christophe says, in the same team, are you afraid that there will be problems during the flight? Nearly every day we talk about the capsule. We talk about what we will do in case there is a problem. Of course, we think a lot about problems, and it's normal. It is the expression of space. We know we'll have challenges. We know we'll have things which are different, and it's normal. It's just normal for us. So you're getting ready for that. That's the reason for the practice and training. Yes, and it's important to acknowledge that we've got a great team, and we practice like a great team. So for the simulations, there is another team which gives some shocks to the system. We see that in the simulators, we see that on the screens, we see that on the computer screens, and we work together to create solutions. That is practice. How do we solve a dangerous problem? And we practice rapid communication. We make choices to regulate the problem, to solve the problem.
RCAF Innovation Team, what mindsets do you see at the CSA and NASA that enable innovation and agility that we could incorporate in the military?
In all those organizations, including the military, I see a lot of overlap in really the mindset, and I definitely learned this first in the military, but this is a working body of people who, when society has run out of ideas and what else to do, this is who you call. When you have a situation that is so grave that you can no longer, your local police or your firefighters, they can't deal with this situation, they need additional help, or you have a country is attacking, these are the people you call to go into these situations and just create solutions. It's often not a very positive situation, but these are problem solvers, and that's what the Canadian Armed Forces do. I'm very proud of them that they are a body of problem solvers for our country. Whatever we need done that we weren't necessarily specifically prepared for, you send those people and they just do the best they can. They may not always succeed, but they will do the best they can or they will die trying. That's an extraordinary body of people. It's that same spirit in space exploration. We're going to plan as best we can, and then at the end of the day, we're just going to do the best we can with what we have. And we're going to accept a lot of risk to do it, but we're also not silly about that. We're professionals. We think it through. We practice. We test over and over again to put ourselves in the best position to overcome some pretty extreme challenges. Going to the moon is crazy. It's nuts. I mean, it's 400,000 kilometers away. When you start to really look at how difficult this is and like how precise your trajectory has to be, this stuff is crazy. But it's super cool that we can do it, and we can by working through it. There's one more thing I'll say on that is something that I've really learned to appreciate about mission control is that, and I think this is great for society in general and just us as humans, but you're not allowed to just bring a problem. You have to bring solutions or potential solutions or ideas of where a solution may be hidden. So we call it failure, impact, workaround. So you have a controller at their console and they have their system and something happens to it. So they identify that there's a failure in the system and they tell the flight director about it. They talk about the impact of that failure. So everybody in the team understands how that failure might impact other systems. And then they have to talk about a workaround. Failure, impact, workaround. They're not allowed to just bring problems. They got to start thinking about a solution and help that team arrive at a solution. And in society, this is very important. We're all very good at it. Hey, I see a problem. This is wrong. That person did that wrong, or they should do that better. We're all really good at identifying the failures. That's really easy to do. We don't need people who can identify failures. We need people who can identify solutions. That's a key.
Failure, impact, and workaround. We can use that in our daily lives too. It's
Yeah,
good one. OK, une question de Lynn. Allez-vous être en mesure de nous transmettre des images en temps réel?
Oui, non. On a de
Can you send us images in real time in space? In far space, we can share images, but not all images. So we have a lesser level. We are able to share videos, but we capture all this in the spaceship, and then we will share all the images later on. So follow the Canadian Space Agency's social media, and you will see almost indirect.
The Indigenous elders, and how will you use that information during your mission? Did you share that info with your crewmates?
Oh. Yeah, I've had the privilege just in my travels across Canada. I've been invited by numerous elders to sit with them, sometimes participate in traditional ceremonies, sweat lodges, for example, pipe ceremonies, and then just sitting and chatting with elders. I always, anybody the more time you have on this planet, the wiser you are. It's just a reality. And I found Indigenous elders to have a real acute understanding of the environment and how we can coexist with that environment, with Mother Earth, if you will. I have huge respect for nature. I treasure my time in nature. My favorite memories with my wife and children are when we're out in the middle of nowhere with a backpack and backpacking. I just love that, and I love seeing them in nature, and just brings out the best in us. So I really treasure time in nature, and the fact that the elders can just share this wisdom about how nature interacts with each other, I find to be a real treasure. Those connections led to being invited on a vision quest by an elder named Sabe from the Turtle Lodge. That was a pretty special invitation, and in a vision quest, elders may do it differently, but in his case, it's a 4-day fast, no food and water, and you do some preparation before, and then you go off by yourself and you just commune with nature for that time frame. I thought it would be really, really hard, like impossibly hard. I'd fasted without food before, but never without water, and I just thought, there's just no way. Like, how do you do this? But it's obvious they do it. They've been doing it for thousands of years, so I'm like, well, I trust them. And it was interesting. Just the way it all comes together and the way they choreograph it and prepare you, it was a very positive experience. I've definitely shared that with my crewmates. They found it fascinating. We've actually, what's interesting about that is we have these off-nominal scenarios where if we get a hole in the spacecraft after we've left Earth orbit, we have to try to survive all the way to landing in our spacesuits.
Wow.
And so how you handle the human body in a spacesuit for, let's say 144 hours would be really tricky, just from a human waste point of view and all of that. And so it's given me a lot of confidence that there would be a lot of value in using that technique to manage the human body in that environment. And I know that they found that really interesting too. And knock on wood, I gotta find some here, but we won't need to do that because that would be really bad. But I just think that's an interesting overlap. It gave me a lot of confidence in what's possible with the human body. But that also led to the creation of the Canadian Space Agency, or the mission patch for this mission that I'm wearing on my flight suit here, by Henry, an Anishinaabe artist. And he incorporated one Indigenous perspective from the Anishinaabe tradition and some other First Nations perspectives as well. But these 7 sacred laws are represented in the animals. And I encourage people to go to Canadian Space Agency website and look up the mission patch and just see some of the videos from Henry and Sabe, learn a little bit about the teachings of these 7 sacred laws in the animals, because it really is quite beautiful. And it's one example of Indigenous knowledge. It's a very accessible example. And just quickly, the animals represent, the buffalo is respect, the eagle is love, the bear is courage, the Sabe or the Sasquatch is honesty, the beaver is wisdom, the wolf is humility, and the turtle is truth. And these are just values that we can strive to live towards in life. None of us are perfect. We're not always able to walk in that integrity, but if we strive to hold those dear, they will bring a rich life. for each of us. And there's a great teaching for each of these animals that I encourage people to read about and listen to the videos.
And that's really interesting. And also after your 4-day fast and that you had more confidence in your body, did you also get some spiritual insights or something in your mind about it?
Yeah, I mean, these are very personal experiences, of course, but I don't mind sharing a little bit about it. It is, and if you make that much space to commune with spirit and nature, you'll be rewarded. And that was my experience. It was very positive. You know, my takeaways are I'm a pretty driven person. I obviously, you know, like to be part of big teams doing big things. That really fuels me. I also, you know, a member of the military. I care a lot about, you know, I'm not interested in war on the planet. The reason I'm interested in the military is because of its deterrence possibilities. But you also, if you're going to have real deterrence to stop people, this is where humanity is at right now. Right. To stop people, you have to have the capability to stop them if you need to. And that's what the military means to me. That's why I wanted to be a member of it. So I feel the weight of problems in the world. Like when I see wars going on in other countries, it makes me sad. And I, you know, really struggled with the purpose in life is to be happy. It really is. So if we're meant to be happy, how do we do that and see all these other things going on? And I spent a lot of time thinking about that, and sort of the teaching that I received was, well, you can be happy so long as you use your energy to try and make the world better. You can't do it as an individual. You can't fix those wars or those problems, but you can make sure that your energy doesn't contribute to them negatively, that it only contributes positively. And as long as each individual person gets up every single day and contributes positively, lifts others up instead of tearing them down, then you can be happy.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that energy with everyone watching right now. It makes us feel that we need to use that energy collectively to be on the
and it's not hard as an individual. You know, it makes it easier. Yeah, because we can't solve those big problems, but you can do that simple thing. Like I'm just gonna make the things that I touch today a little bit better.
Yeah, and then it compounds, and we all win.
Yeah.
Okay, of all the things you have trained for the Artemis II mission, which lesson do you value the most? And is there one specific lesson that we could apply to a classroom that's watching?
I would say it's a can-do attitude. So, you know, one thing that's common in human experience, no matter how old you are, is you're going to face challenges, things that you thought were going to be one way and they're not the way you thought they were going to be, and it upsets you, or something that you want and you can't create in that moment, or you know, something that you didn't control just happens to you. We're all going to face challenges, and so you know, what we put into practice every single day is to just acknowledge that has happened, then accept this is where you're at, and get into the creative space to creating a solution. So for us in the capsule, it's simple. We have these screens, and when something happens on the vehicle, we get like a caution or a warning message, and you know, this light starts flashing, and we hear a tone, and we see the line come up that says what failed, and so we acknowledge it. We physically acknowledge it by pushing the button, which turns off the alarm and says to the vehicle, okay, they know about this. And then we just get in that, okay, let's accept what that is. So we figure that out, understand it, and then the next thing is, okay, what are we going to do about it? How are we going to fix it? So that is another way of failure impact workaround, but it's in our lives, it's more like acknowledge, accept, create a solution.
Yeah, and a can-do attitude can go a long way, like you mentioned. Mm-hmm. Question from Beaumont, Alberta. Mrs. Green's science class wants to know what it means to you to be the first maple leaf to the moon. They are also inspired by your journey.
Yeah, I've met Amanda before. She's a great communicator and teacher, very passionate about this. what it means to me is what I kind of started with at the beginning. Is it's a reflection on what Canada is possible of doing. So I've said this many times, but it has, the fact that I am going doesn't have much to do with me at all. I wanted to do this. I applied to do it. I was lucky enough to get accepted. I have the skill sets. But by and large, the reason that somebody is going is because millions or thousands of people over decades held a vision for a Canada that would use space to make our lives better on the planet. They thought we could learn more about the ionosphere so we could use it to communicate. Oh, wow, and once we understood that, we can actually build satellites to help us communicate. Oh, we can build satellites that help us to understand our planet. And then we can actually build robotics that help humans go there and service these satellites and launch these satellites and then build a space station. And now we're building a station around the moon and creating a third generation of robotics and doing all sorts of other things to help us live better on the planet. Like I was just at Telesat yesterday, and they're moving forward with providing internet around the planet in a really unique way that'll be hugely beneficial for not just Canadians, but others around the world. And so that's a very exciting thing. And so that is Canada. And this is why we have earned an opportunity to send a human into deep space, because we're bringing real value. Our partners really want to work with us and want to use our technologies and our innovations. And so that is important to just think about. This is just Artemis II. This is just one snapshot in time. This is really exciting, but it's not the pinnacle. It just gets better from here.
Okay, so we have more questions from Farah Alibé, who is a Quebecer who works at NASA, who's quite known here in Quebec, and she works at GPL. She wants to know, are you more Star Trek or Star Wars?
I love both, but I was forced to answer this a long time ago, where I was like, you have to choose. I'm like, well, I don't really want to choose, but if they make me choose, I ended up picking Star Wars. And the rationale, I think, is very solid. Star Trek's really amazing. You think about the future. It helps you envision a better world and very altruistic people going on these great missions. It's fun to imagine that future. But Star Wars is actual real history. It happened a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
Très bon. Puis, dans la même veine...
This is amazing. In the same way, we were asking, what was your first job?
Was just helping on the farm, simple jobs like picking stones out of the field. So I know that sounds crazy if you're not a farmer, but if you plant your crops and then you have these stones that push up from the frost every year, they break your equipment when you go to harvest or plant the next year. And so every year you walk through the field, like all of them, and pick up, and any rock that's basically the size of my fist or bigger, you pick up and collect and take it out of the field so you don't break your machinery. And so it's a very mind-numbing, boring job and hard work on hot summer days, walking through the fields. But yeah, I did a lot of that growing up.
T'avais quel âge environ pour qu'on s'imagine la scène de tout?
What age did you have just to imagine you picking rocks? I probably started at the age of 8. Probably I thought it was a good idea to go work with my dad. But in reality, maybe it wasn't a good idea. Yes, but this is what started building your work ethic. So now I get to the last question. How many personal items can you take with you? And what was the first thing you said, I'm going to take with me? We have the right to take a book. It has to be in an envelope, not something big. 2 things, actually. I gave a gift to my wife and kids from the moon and in the capsule. The other thing is the cap. The cap, it's not the cap, it's like a logo on the hat, because the cadet program really changed my life. It gave me lots of confidence to start with leadership and how to really be a Canadian, and it changed my life for sure. So the family and the cadet are a huge part of your personality.
And thank you for asking all your fantastic questions. Merci beaucoup. Merci tout le monde pour ne rien manquer de la mission Artemis.
To not miss anything about the Artemis mission, please follow our social media and the website.
Invite you and your family and friends to watch it together. The Canadian Space Agency has a watch party kit that will become available for you soon. Don't miss it. Make sure to follow us on social media to be the first to know. Thank you, Jeremy. We'll let you end this beautiful live with us today.
I echo what you say. I just really appreciate people tuning in. And this is, it's important for us to talk about this mission, to remind ourselves about what we're doing, what we're capable of. And I think as Canadians, we have a habit of keeping ourselves a little bit too small sometimes. And so this is just an opportunity to celebrate our strengths and what we're capable of. And I think it couldn't be better time. So thanks to all of you for giving it a little bit of thought, and just imagine what you can do next. Take care, everyone.
Merci beaucoup tout le monde. Thank you, Jeremy. Godspeed and good luck.
Yeah, merci, Fred.